Welcome to the DGD podcast. Guys, welcome on Jamey Goodman from the longest Georgia Bulldogs podcast, the Dawgcast. Jamey, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I look forward to speaking with you.
Hey, I've been waiting for this, man. I know, there's a lot of going on with podcasting, right? Like I look at the Dawgcast as kind of some basically what is the word? Basically reasoning, right? Reasoning to why I kind of got started, right? I look at what y'all talk about in regards to your fans and just getting your word out there and getting your ideas and beliefs. So before we even start the show, man, thank you for the Dawgcast. It's kind of an inspiration to me. So just wanted to thank you there.
Hey man, I really appreciate it. The Dawgcast started back in October of 2005 was just a small vision from Derek, the creator of the Dawgcast and host of the show. But it's been one of those staples in our lives for a long time. By fans, for fans content. I think something that everybody yearns for. You kind of take the media game out of it. No political affiliations. Just speak your mind and give the people what they want to hear.
No, that's exactly what I try to do. I don't want to say I'm stealing your ideas and mentalities there, but I mean it's a good mold. I like doing it. It's a lot you can look at. From a fan standpoint, you can look at what the coaches say, what insiders say. But sometimes you just want to hear what other fans have to say. So kind of fitting into that mold right there. It's always fun to listen to your content. Guys, we got a busy show today. We're going to talk a lot, just really about some stuff in general from Georgia. In regards to the program, looking at some recruiting, got several upcoming commits that were scheduled. We're going to talk about our predictions for, what we think, where these guys are going to go. And then maybe, Jamey, at the end, I think we'll talk a little bit about the Dawgcast and I want to get kind of a Q&A from podcaster to podcaster. So,
Sure.
like I said, it's got a busy show. But let's go ahead and get started. First, guys, let's go ahead and talk about some recruiting. I love recruiting. Jamey, I know you're all in for recruiting as well. I'm looking at not January, July 22nd. I think is going to be a big day. A couple names there, Dennis Sutton and Branson Robinson. Obviously, two big names that's on the board for Georgia. I think, in my opinion, I think both are going to be dogs, but we'll talk about that in just a second. You look at Branson Robinson, and you hear a lot of people talking, through Georgia on social media that compares him to Nick Chubb. I kind of see that, but at the same time, I don't like to do the comps necessarily. But definitely kind of fits that mold of a strong runner. What Georgia's looking for, right? I think he's kind of an overall, kind of a good fit for Georgia. So I think, obviously Georgia will gladly take him into the class if he were to choose the Dogs. And then you look at Dennis Sutton, obviously along the defensive line, losing what we're losing this year or this projected to lose. After this season, obviously he'll be a welcomed addition as well. Obviously with 6'5", 230 or something like that. I think it's a pretty big frame as well. Obviously that's a huge get if we were to get him as well. So I want to get your thoughts. Out of the two guys, do you expect, or what are your predictions? Do you expect us to get both, one, or neither?
So prediction-wise, I mean, this recruiting cycle has been a little different than I anticipated being. Last year with COVID, we've seen things all over the map, kids just rushing to commit because there were no visits, things of that nature. And this year's been probably equally as unique with the return of actual on-campus visits. So I would say that I'm not going to be super confident in anybody until they give their verbal and then later the ink dries on the NIL. But with these two, I think, the tea leaves are going in our favor. Branson, something bad would have to happen, I believe, between now and commitment for me to see him going somewhere else. I think the kid wants to be a dog. I think he embodies everything RBU is all about. And in 2021, how many kids go back and say, Herschel Walker is my favorite football player ever? I mean, he's spent his time. He's researched the University of Georgia. So with that, yeah, I would be surprised if he wasn't a dog. But again, in this class, anything can happen. But if I was going to put a prediction meter on it, yeah, I feel 95, 99% confident and Branson
Oh
for
no, I'm
sure.
I'm exactly on par with you there with Branson. I felt like for the longest time he's been a dog. I think we were going to get him anyway. Obviously, like you mentioned before, right? The dead period been extended, finally ends. These kids are finally able to sit there and go visit these campuses. So you can't be mad for these kids. Backing off commitments. Obviously we had Bear and Smoke Bowie decommit. And really taking advantage of going out and looking at campuses and things like that. So, you can't be mad at these kids for, waiting what feels like forever to really go visit a campus. But I felt for the longest time that Branson's going to be a dog. And I think, obviously I look at it in a sense of once their name's on the NIL, then I'll be comfortable.
Right.
But even with the transfer portal, kind of a side note before we dig into the rabbit hole, transfer portal guys, that's a little bit different. So sometimes you can't even feel comfortable after they sign their NIL. But I feel pretty confident with Branson for sure. I'm on par with that 95% you're talking about. But you look at Deni Dennis Sutton. And like I said, he fits a need for Georgia along that defensive line and what Trey Scott's trying to do. Looking at, obviously a true nose tackle here, you're losing Devontae, you're losing Jordan Davis. You're probably going to lose Adam Anderson, more than likely Nolan Smith, perhaps, if not next year. So obviously you've got some shoes to fill and a lot of spots to fill on the defensive line. Looking at defensive line, I think it's going to be a huge class this year. It's very deep. But specifically for Deni Dennis Sutton here, I'm going to give a prediction of about, I feel 80% confident on this one. I know Georgia's been pushing hard for him. I think he's talking about Bama and Penn State are in his top three along with Georgia. And so I feel pretty much confident to say about 80%. I think 80% dog here. What's your prediction on that?
I think it's more of a Georgia Penn State battle than Alabama, though Alabama can always flex those Alabama muscles and get a kid's interest in the matter of no time. So if they were to really put on the gas there, they could be a player. But I don't know. Everybody I've talked to, he seems to love the University of Georgia, and it's a mutual love. Our staff loves him equally as well. High character kid, the type of kid you really want to be an ambassador for your program. So I'm kind of like you. I'm 80, 75, 80% there. In other years, it would probably be higher. But like I said, with just the return of visits, kids finally getting a taste of what it's like to get wooed by so many different coaches, and in a matter of a week or 2 weeks, they visit 5-6 campuses, and they hear the sales pitch from everybody. So in other years, I'd probably be a little higher with my prediction, but I like it at 75%.
Yeah, I mean that's still I'd say that's still a fairly
Absolutely.
confident score.
Super confident, but again, just one of those that him not being close to Georgia is the only thing that really, proximity wise, not close geographically, is the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous. Actually leaving home is harder than you think. So committing to it, but no, I mean, if I'm forced to make a bet on commitment day this month, I'm putting my money on Sutton committing to the Dogs.
I would agree with you there. And obviously, being somebody that left home, being a vet myself, I know what it's like to leave home and go away. It's not as easy as people think it is. It's not that simple. And with these college decisions, guys, obviously for most of us, we may not be a college athlete or anything, but I can assure you at 17, 18 years old, one of the biggest decisions of your life. And looking at it right there, that's a huge factor into making that decision. So, like I said, I'm with you. I think he's a dog come the 22nd. But obviously, there's a lot of time left, and then obviously until whether he signs early signing day or in February for traditional, there's still a lot of time for Penn State or Alabama or whoever really to try to jump in. But moving on from those two, I feel. Like I said, we've talked about that. We feel pretty comfortable with those guys. Carlton Madden recently released a commitment date for, I want to say, the 18th of September. And obviously, if you're not familiar with Carlton Madden, do yourself a favor, do some research on this kid. Former Colorado commit, gets offered by Georgia and then almost immediately decommits. There's a ton of momentum for him going to Georgia. What would your confidence rating for Madden be come September?
I feel like Madden will be a dog for sure. I mean, a lot can change between now and September. I feel like if the commitment day was tomorrow, my meter would be as high as it could go for for him coming to University of Georgia. With a little space in between, I have to watch the visits. Let's see what he does. Let's see where he travels. But where it stands today, yeah, I like our chances with Madden as good as anyone.
Yeah, no, you always have to look at the visits, but you can't always 100% bank on them either. We got burnt looking at visits from was it Mason Smith and Corey Foreman as well. Well, Jordan Birch as well too. So obviously you can't 100% bank on the visits, but it's a damn good representation of what could be happening. But going to Madden's point here, obviously when Georgia offered, I think you look at a sense of in my opinion, I'm going to say 100% lock. This kid is a dog. Uh, I just feel the writings on the wall there. You look at what happens, right? Current Colorado kid commit. Literally, as soon as Georgia offers, that decommit comes within the next couple days, and then you literally start hearing the hype. And I think there's a ton of smoke there, which is why I feel so confident in him being a dog. I think he's one of those kids and really just one of the many kids here in this class and probably last cycle too, with the dead period being the way it was. Kids, the rankings don't mean shit right now. This is the perfect year to really see that. I just believe that he was one of those kids that really fits what Georgia's trying to do, but the ranking doesn't reflect it, and I think that's where the evaluating talent, not the stars, is going to be crucial here. So looking at that right there, obviously I trust in what Kirby and company really see. So, like I said, I feel like he's 100% lock. I think you could pencil that commit in and just go from there come September 18th.
Yeah, that's definitely not an unfair perception of a percentage for him because the kid, yeah, the kid had, well, like you said, committed to Colorado, comes to Georgia, immediately decommits, and it's been nothing but Georgia talk ever since. Like I said, if there wasn't a bunch of time, I mean, this kid's a dog. If his commitment was tomorrow, I'd tell you 100%. I've just been burned too many times to give 100% out there when they got a couple months of visits they can take. Anything can happen, but it's unlikely. Yeah, the kid's a dog. And to touch on your rank, what you mentioned about rankings, I mean, it was almost unfair to rank any kid last year. There's no camps, there's no combines. Some kids didn't even play high school football, yet they're out there assigning stars or numbers or whatever it is they do to evaluate or say they evaluate these kids. And they're doing it on phone conversations with somebody that's giving them insight to what they look like at practice, because guess what? There's nobody allowed at practice either, even on the high school level. So what you'll see is a lot of boards reset when these kids get on campus and they're participating in these camps. Coaches are likely seeing them live for the first time. They didn't get to catch them at a game. They hadn't seen the footage. So the real evaluation is taking place on campus. So there's one thing, like you said, I don't doubt Kirby. I don't doubt the staff. This kid could be a 2-star, 3-star, or 10-star. If Kirby wants him, I mean, there's a reason behind it.
Looking into that, what you just said, I completely agree with you there. This is the perfect year to really break down what the rankings actually mean. Nothing. They really don't mean much. I mean, I've seen like statistics show that when it comes to rankings, the top teams in recruiting rankings, typically transitions to success on the field in regards to championships, which I've saw that argument. But this year I think, is a complete and utter exception to the rule because of the fact that, like you just said, no one was able to go see these kids at all. Like no scouts, nothing.
None.
So now you're gonna. I can almost tell you right now that the rankings are going to be so much of a roller coaster effect. It's literally something you probably would just want to hold off and wait and look for 2023.
Hey, here's what I'll say about rankings. If you're somebody that follows rankings, follow kids at these camps. A kid like Madden, a kid that goes in, maybe he's ranked lower than most, committed to a smaller school, maybe not a big SEC powerhouse or not a Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. And watch what his rankings do in the week or two after he gets the first big offer, and then everybody else jumps on board with an offer. Watch those rankings shoot through the roof, and that'll tell you right there everything you need to know about how they evaluate kids.
We're not trying to look, for the record, guys. We're not trying to bash these recruiting services or anything like that. But let's be honest,
It's a good
it's really
service.
I mean, they are good services, and for me, I like to look at 24/7. I love to look at the composite because of the overall comparisons here and the numbers there. But honestly, let's be honest, though, guys. Like Jamey just said, look at the camps. Like perfect example. The opening, right? The Elite 11. Uh, Actually, just Jaden Gibson, right? Perfect example. Not really on Georgia's radar, and blows it up at the Elite 11. Just ridiculous. Had a great showing. Georgia offers, and then boom, he's already on the radar. Now he's a 4-star already if you're looking at rankings, but that's the thing, right? This is what happens with the talent. Hasn't had a chance to be seen until you start to go out to these camps and these big recruiting events like that right there. You start to see these guys emerge, and that's when their stock really rises, or it could fall. I've seen certain situations where some people will fall, but nonetheless, you look at what Georgia carries, right? We have some stroke. Let's be honest. If Georgia offers that, more than likely, if a kid wants Georgia to be there, if we offer, it's going to happen. We can be in top whatevers. Obviously, it's just a matter of closing out. But nonetheless, I look at it this way right here. Obviously, let's talk about Jaden Gibson since we just did that. Right, recent offer. Obviously, after the Elite 11 here, immediately puts Georgia in the top 8. Was a top 7, supposed to be, moves it to a top 8. Obviously, I think listening to social media and stuff like that, I don't know if he's going to release another top afterwards, but I think he may end up actually committing from the 8 schools. I'm not. I would say probably, if I had to choose a confidence level here, I'm gonna say 60%. And Jamey, see if this makes sense to you. The fact that Georgia offers and then immediately gets thrown into the top 8 does matter. You look at his schools that he's looking at right there. I think it's a Florida. I mean, he's a Florida kid. So you look at the Florida schools, Miami, Florida, Florida State. Those are all in there. I think it's a battle between the Florida schools and Georgia. But when you look at his skill set with what Georgia could be losing pretty much, I think you look at the possibility that he could be a dog, which is why I think if I had to choose a projection, 60% would be fair. There's still a lot of work for Georgia to be done here to really secure that commitment. And Georgia's looking for it. I would say we've already got Denali Morissette in the fold. We lose on Kojo to Ohio State. A lot of people's been looking at Kojo. So you're still looking for probably 2, maybe 3, depending on who falls into the class, 2 receivers. And I think really looking at it, Jaden Gibson would be a great fit for Georgia with his body being at 6'4", and really a really good run time and speed for that body size. What if you had to choose Jaden Gibson? Obviously, it's kind of a recent thing. What would you want to say about that?
I mean, I like where we sit with Gibson today. I really do. But I'm not ready to even say, and it's not that we don't have a chance, but I'm not ready to put a number on it. I want to get him on campus. If he comes to campus, if we get him here, then I'll agree with you. I mean, we're 60% or better just with him showing up. Obviously, he's a Florida kid, and we'll have the Florida schools tugging at him. I think the Gators are probably what would be the consensus favorite to land him prior to us jumping in. But we all know how Florida recruits. They don't recruit at the level that Georgia does. They don't. So what we could sell him while on campus is going to be more inviting to what Florida does. And outside of great tight end play, I mean, Florida doesn't have the data to suggest that they're putting out all-world wide receivers similar to what Ohio State has to offer kids when they get there. They can show them mounds and mounds of tape of, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards. I mean, it's as deep as you want to go. Florida doesn't have that data. So with that, I think it's a great shot that we could pull this kid out of Florida right from under the nose of the Gators.
Yeah, and you talk about Florida recruiting, and you look at statistics. I think you have to look at this past year, and this is not making an excuse or anything like that, but let's be honest. Florida's offense with Pitts and Tony and Kyle Trask was really an exception to what we've seen in recent memory with Florida, in my opinion, since Urban Meyer. With the level of success that they had, and really, let's be honest, they didn't even have that much success. They completely crumbled to end the season. But statistically, obviously you have a Heisman candidate, a Heisman finalist quarterback, Kyle Pitts, highest tight end ever drafted going forward to the Falcons. There was a lot of success there. And really looking at it right here, outside of that past year, you don't, like you said, you don't really see a lot of numerical data to suggest that the Florida receivers, outside of what you saw with Urban, have been really a true breakout star and have unlimited success basically at the next level. So I think looking at what Georgia's putting on the field this year, what the expectations are for this year, and tie that into what we saw when JT Daniels came on the field the last 4 games, I think that's a lot of basically fuel for our fire for Gibson. So I think, like I said, obviously if we put pen to paper basically this year on the field, I think it's almost, I would say my 60% would go up pretty significantly.
Oh yeah, and that's something we need to do as a whole for wide receiver recruiting. Anyway, we've got to show these kids that we can get them the ball consistently.
Absolutely.
And we've done it some in the past. We did it 4 games with JT, and the data prior to JT under Monken doesn't count. I mean, it was you can't use that. I mean, it's for us or against us simply because we're starting basically a walk-on quarterback. But with JT, if we can continue on the path that we left on and even grow from that, that should open the door to a lot of these wide receiver recruitments becoming more of instant commitments just based on the film that we can put in front of them. I just got a text right here, and it looks like Demetrius Robinson is official to Auburn.
Wow. I kind of saw that.
Right, it was on the wall there.
Yeah.
But it's now official.
Looking at that, though, in my opinion, though, well, let's talk briefly about this. D-Rob has that speed. And Auburn loses, they lose Schwartz. They lose Eli Stove, I think. So they were trying to replace a lot of speed as well. And I think D-Rob will fit well there. I think when you look at Auburn, though, there's still so many question marks about what they're going to be offensively, right? Obviously you look at Bo Nix and you would think that that's the starter, but then TJ Finley comes from LSU, and I wouldn't expect him to come there if he wasn't expecting to battle for the starting job. So obviously you look at the starting quarterback situation, it's kind of iffy right now. But obviously with the new coaching staff, right, what Brian Harsin can bring, there's so many questions there because this isn't your group of 5 anymore, right? This is SEC football, and you're going to be going against Georgia. You're going to be going against Bama, LSU every week. So, D-Rob, I think he benefits from having the SEC experience to go against these defenses. But it's just a matter of what they can do offensively and how productive they can be offensively to what level of success that he's going to sustain. And, obviously I wish him well. Obviously, as a former Dog, I'm not going to bash any kid for that matter. I do wish him well. Just whenever we play Auburn, I can't wish him a win there. You know what I mean? I just can't do that. So,
no, I hope he plays well in that game.
I do
but there's
too.
No way he gets to walk away with a win. But, if I was D-Rob and I'm going to go somewhere in the SEC to stay in conference, Auburn is probably the best spot for him. I mean, like you said, there are a lot of question marks. There's a lot of spots open, and he brings a level of experience that they don't have. I mean, he's been here a while and a level of maturity. Though he didn't find the success he hoped to have found in Athens, one thing he didn't do is he didn't cause any problems. He went out there and he grinded every day. It just didn't work out. So, I think he can help them be whatever they're going to be. But, and it keeps them on national TV. So, actually, probably not a bad move for him or a bad decision on where he chose to go. As long as it's not Florida, I can live with it.
Absolutely. Or Tennessee for that matter, too. Yeah.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. But now, he's kind of fits this mold of what we're looking at on our offense, especially at the receiver position. This is one of the most deep classes in regards to a receiver room that I've ever seen, from top to bottom. I feel like we have production at all levels. Um, and I think you saw in recent transfers, you look at Trey Blunt, Micaiah Tongue, those guys right there, right? He just fits into this casualty of depth and attrition in that room. So, like you were saying, I wish him success, and I know he's been here for a while. He's got that experience. Um, I think he can go in there and make an immediate impact at Auburn. Help out Bo Nix or help out TJ Finley. While they're learning the new offense, things like that. He wasn't a bad player, obviously at Georgia. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's just a matter of
Not at all.
depth and attrition. So I think he'll be successful. But look, when he plays Georgia, I can't root for him. I can root for him, but I'm definitely not going to root for Auburn. Um,
No, I'll never. I mean, there are a few situations that I'm going to root for Auburn. But yeah, I wish the kid well. Nothing but the best. And that's the look. This is the cost of doing business. If you're going to recruit at the level that Kirby recruits at, there are going to be some really good players that get recruited over. I mean, it's just part of it. There's kids that could likely start on many other SEC schools that won't scratch the field at the University of Georgia, and we're going to have to live with and still love them when they go somewhere else because at the end of the day, they've got to do what's best for them. They all have aspirations of getting to the league, using football to feed their family. It's just part of it. It's different. Yeah, it's not what we're used to, but this is times we're in, and I say, embrace the kid, wish him well, and just make it where he never wins against Georgia.
Fair enough. I mean, he's only got one more year. I think he's like a super senior, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, he's graduated, I believe. So
yeah. I can't blame him, to try to raise his stock either. Obviously, but moving on from the receivers, let's kind of talk about another receiver just at a different position, Oscar Delp. Right, everybody knows the social media battle between us and South Carolina. Delp is a dog. We want Delp. My prediction here, I think he's a lock to Georgia. Just looking at what I just think there was some smoke there with South Carolina, but let's be honest, South Carolina, there's so many question marks with what Beamer's going to do. I'm not going to say Beamer's going to be not unsuccessful. I just don't know if they can provide the level of success that Oscar Delp would want. And I know he's got the ties with his mom going to Columbia and going to school there. I just think that he's a dog in my opinion. So I'm going to say confidence of 80 on Oscar Delp, and I think he commits in. Well, I think September 30th was Delp.
yeah, I think it's September, and
Yeah.
my confidence level on this one. Again, I'm going to speak as if he were committing tomorrow. If he was committing tomorrow, I would say 95%. With that time in there, we'll see what happens. See if anybody can get on the radar with him. See if he can, find new love somewhere else. But I never got worried about South Carolina. I mean, it was
Fair
cute, and I get it. I mean, the story was good. There is the level of attraction because your mother graduated from there. Their ties are there. But a kid at that level, let's just be honest, in-state is typically not going to travel to South Carolina. There's nothing for him there. I mean, he's not chasing a national championship. He's not even chasing a conference championship. So if the desire is to win, you take those talents to the school you love the most in the state that you're born in. And yeah, there's too many factors that push Delp to the University of Georgia for him not to be a dog.
I look at Delp, the tight end room where it is right now won't even matter. Obviously we have Darnell, you have Fitzpatrick, you have Brock Bowers, and I love what all of those guys bring to the table. But when you look at Oscar Delp, I think of a tight end that runs like a receiver, and that kind of fits our mold with what Hartley's doing. You get Darnell that's what I'd say 6'7", 6'8" for sure.
Yeah.
So and he could catch and run like a receiver. We saw what he did against Cincinnati, in Missouri, things like that. And then you add in Brock Bowers. What I saw at G-Day, I was really impressed with what I saw with him.
I think the ceiling on Bowers is super high. I mean, when you say running routes like a receiver, I mean, the kid's got I mean, what did Bowers run? Like a
Like a
4.5,
4.5 or something like that.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a kid 240 pounds running a 4.5, and Chris Routes in good hands. I mean, he's a matchup nightmare, and that's the same thing Delp brings to the table. The structure of this room is changing. I don't think we'll see a ton of the prototypical Darnell Washingtons that we've seen in the past, and
Mhm.
the more of the hybrid guy that can flex out wide if needed.
Yep. So while you were mentioning that right there, while we were talking about Bowers and his potential, I got a tweet about three assistant coaches that got extensions. I don't know if you had saw that yet, but Matt Luke got an extension. Uh, Glenn Schumann and Trey Scott all got extensions. So obviously, I think those are three key pieces there, especially with Trey Scott and Schumann on the defense. I think Schumann probably going to be our next DC, and Trey Scott, great recruiter, phenomenal recruiter, and really developing these guys too. You have to extend those guys to keep them at Georgia. So I am glad to see that news for those three. And honestly, next, if I see anybody else, I want to see Todd Hartley. I think Todd Hartley deserves an extension as well. But we'll see what happens with Todd Hartley. But kind of going back to Delp here, right? I want to kind of use this as a transition. So you all obviously with Delp, like I said, I think he's a dog, and obviously there was a huge battle on social media with the hashtag war. We want Delp versus Delp as a dog, which transitions into the Shaw dog that just popped up too for Travis Shaw, defensive lineman out of Grimsley, right near my backyard, basically in Greensboro. I think that you're looking at, top three of him being Georgia, Clemson, UNC. I just feel like he's a dog. I know you have to really keep an eye out for North Carolina here, just knowing what they're about with Mac Brown. Look, Miles Murphy over there just comes out of Greensboro as well, having some good success there. I just think that, the immediate need, Georgia's will to, I guarantee you, throw everything at him to be a dog, along with the X factor in this whole recruitment, in my opinion, Jalen Walker. I
Right.
think I think the writing's on the wall. I think he's a dog. So I'm going to say 70%.
Wow.
I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna take my bold take here, guys. 70%. I think he's a dog. Now he's not scheduled to commit. There's no scheduled date specifically, but I just feel confident in it. Obviously, losing Bear, I know Georgia's not going to be out of that right there. They're going to push for Bear, but let's be honest. Travis Shaw feels a need that we're about to lose this year, after this year, and it's going to be crucial to get that fill in. And we're basically replacing Jordan Davis, and that's a true nose tackle. You look at what Jordan Davis, and you see how vital he is to the defense's success. And like I said, right there, it starts at the line, and we see what happens when Jordan Davis is on the field and when he's not. And no discredit to Jalen Carter or anything like that, but look, Jordan Davis was irreplaceable last year. We saw what happened when he wasn't on the field, and the defense took, in my opinion, a really noticeable step back, especially with getting pressure along the front four. And Travis Shaw would fit that. Got the body size for it, and I think Georgia's going to press very hard and basically showing. Look, Jordan Davis was a kid right out of Charlotte, right in North
Right.
Carolina too. You see the success that he's got, and I guarantee he's a top. I would say probably a top 2 round pick, round 1, round 2, in my opinion. Just off, and stats don't mean shit to him, and that's one of the things I like about Jordan Davis. He's said it that stats don't matter. He looks at the stats of the linebackers. I want that philosophy to fill that true nose tackle, and I think Travis Shaw is the guy. I just don't feel confident enough to say that Bear comes back into the class. Not saying he won't. I just don't feel confident enough that Bear ends up back in Georgia. So that means that Georgia has to land Travis Shaw, and that's why I feel confident that Kirby and Trey Scott are going to get it done, which is why I put 70%. What do you think?
I think everything you said is correct as far as the need, as far as the position. In fact, I mean, all things being equal, I take Shaw over Bear if I had to choose one or the other. If I could have either one I wanted, Shaw's my guy there. regardless of what the ranking service tell me. I like Shaw, and I think we lead for Shaw. I think it's a 3-team race. I think it's one of the Carolina schools, North Carolina
Yep.
or Clemson, and North Carolina. But I think we lead. I think it's probably not by a huge margin just yet, but I think we're gaining more momentum as the time goes on. So I don't know how I would rank that other than I think we lead for them. I think if we can continue what we're doing and these schools aren't able to find a way to flatten the tire of the bus that we're on, then in the end, there's a large opportunity for him to come to Athens.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you this right here, just being from North Carolina, understanding what it means for kids and out of high school coming to, and looking at your in-state schools, it can't count out Clemson either. And the reason why I say that is because in the recent memory, Clemson has had a stranglehold over North Carolina. If they wanted a kid from North Carolina, they got them. And and really, as long as Brent Venables is there, I don't see Clemson not being a threat here. I do think that it is a UNC Georgia battle right now, with just very, very close.
Right.
Ultimately, I think you look at the production on the field, and I think that's where the momentum switches for whenever he decides to commit. I'm still trying to find words on his UNC visit right before the dead period kicked back up. Like you said, taking visits and hearing what came out of those are crucial, especially when when it matters. The stakes are this high for this kind of kid. It's a big deal, especially what we're losing after the season. So looking at that right there, I really think we're in the lead, but like you said, not by much. And Georgia's got their work cut out for them to pull him down to Athens. And you look at kids, Jordan Davis specifically. I think it was yesterday, reached out and hit the Shaw Dog hashtag and let them know that Athens takes care of those NC boys. And let's be honest, you look at some NC products, and he's not lying. Todd Gurley comes to mind. Zeus currently on the
Right.
and really Jordan Davis himself. So he's not lying. Keith Marshall, if you want to go that far back. Georgia has a good track record with North Carolina kids too, so that's why Georgia's going to be in it for a North Carolina kid as well. So my take, I want him. I don't know. We're in the OG chat over there with Brooks Austin. We've talked about this at nauseum. I want him. Brooks wants him. I think everybody really is almost wanting him, and really rightfully so. The kid is just a freak. So looking at that right there, guys, that's the recruiting part of this, right? I think those are some names. If you're not familiar with them, go check them out. Look, do some digging, do some research, get a feel for what they're about. Watch their tape, right? Don't look at the rankings 100%. Look at the tape, and really get a feel for what we're talking about here with and see why they would fit at Georgia. But Jamey, I wanted to get to a quick Q&A here, man.
Sure.
Obviously, at the beginning of the show, we were talking about the Dawgcast, right? And it's been going since 2005.
Right.
So I wanted, from a podcaster to a podcaster here, I wanted to ask a couple questions, and if anybody's listening and, you want to, who's to say we maybe have our next podcaster listening in right now? I guess for me, what brought you to create or to join the Dawgcast? I know it wasn't, you weren't the creator per se, but you definitely joined in it. So what was the logic behind that? Like, what made you want to do that?
Well, I was friends with Derek. He was a friend of mine. The need was there. I followed him in the show. I won't say from entirety, but shortly after it launched, back in the very early days, and just watched the growth. It was part of my life in a lot of ways prior to me being on the show. So it just made sense to transition into that spot once it was available.
Oh, and I mean, looking at how successful it's been, I know y'all are on episode 581 was the last one that came out. I think it was.
Yeah, it's 581. Like I said, since October of 2005, and prior to now, we've only ever been a full schedule in season, post game and pre game shows every week, and then the off season was hit and miss. We're going to cover G Day. We're going to cover any kind of big news, but maybe monthly episodes, maybe only one show in March and two shows in April.
Yeah.
But as we're transitioning now, starting next week will be at least one weekly episode off season, and then back in season with a minimum of a post and pregame show. And there could be some new content coming for a third show. That's still haven't worked out all the kinks, but there could be a third show in season coming.
Yeah, I know. Trying to set a schedule. Obviously, like compared to 2005, I'm nowhere near that yet. So for me, it's there's a lot to go when you're first starting off. You're looking at your schedule and trying to schedule consistency, in my opinion. But sometimes that's difficult, especially in the off season, right? Like
Right.
the regular season is so easy because you have games, and you obviously you can see what you saw, pregame or what you expect, and then obviously review what you saw. But the off season, there's that opportunity where there's nothing going on, and it makes it difficult to find content. So in that regard, was it difficult to really maintain your consistency starting off? Like obviously with especially during the off season per se.
I mean, it is hard. You got to find your niche. What are you most attracted to? I mean, the thing you like the most is the thing you're going to be best talking about. So to find the area when there isn't content, I mean, it's easy in season or in camp or during those times because there's information coming from everywhere. But when there's nothing, you just have to find what it is. Is it old games? Is it former players? Is it you just find what works best for you. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. Just find the part that you love, and if you love it, they're going to love it too because you're delivering it to them in such a way that they're not getting it anywhere else.
No, absolutely. That was one of the things that I had is just obviously like for me starting fresh, right? One of the things for me was trying to build these, networking, right? Like you understand networking from a personal level, but then you have your podcast, so you sit there, you try to network in that regard too. And really, a lot of times you just shoot your shot. And that's what I've always said to myself is, if you can reach out to somebody, shoot your shot, and if they respond to you, awesome. If not, hey, you can say you tried. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But that's
absolutely.
really
You can't be scared to go after it. If there's somebody out there that you want to talk to or something you want to do on the show, I mean, go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen is somebody not respond or tell you no, and sometimes that's good. Having somebody telling you no you can scratch that person off the list and go to the one that might be the right one.
absolutely. Like I always have a goal set in mind for me. Like I think one of my goals is to bring on like Herschel Walker or bring on No Sean Marino because like in my opinion, in my lifetime, No Sean was really the Georgia Bulldog that got me to be a dog fan. And I went back on the first episode and kind of gave my history on what made me a dog fan. And really back in '08 when he was doing the leap at Arizona State,
Right.
that one specifically is what set me to really like, okay, this is my team. I think this is my team. But even at the same time, though, I do try to keep up with the SEC. For me, when I was in high school, I don't know, I may have not told you the story. When I was in high school trying to get out to college back in '08, '09, I actually got accepted to LSU. Just, at the time of the recession, if anybody's old enough to remember that, it was you really couldn't do much. And then, so it was just pretty much had to scratch it. But I did follow LSU pretty closely. Just obviously, just I felt like it was something I wanted to do just because of I got accepted there, so it was an honor to be accepted, even though I didn't go.
Sure.
Like I said, still Georgia has that place in my heart. So, looking at that right there, and really you look at what you're doing. For me, if anybody's like me, I love recruiting. I keep up with these guys. I know it's difficult, right? You're going to be wrong, right? You can sit here and make predictions on he'll be a dog, and then next thing you know, Ohio State comes out of nowhere, and we're like, where did this come from? Obviously you have to understand to be, you're going to be wrong, but you have to, stick your foot out there and make it happen, right? So yeah, obviously, basically you're just seconding, what I've been thinking. But if anybody's listening and, maybe could be an aspiring podcaster down the road, hey, maybe you could take this and run with it. So, Before we end the show, Jamey, I want to give you a second to, to basically tell people more where they can find the Dawgcast, where they can find your work. I know y'all record 60 feet under Sanford Stadium, so tell people about that.
Yeah, so we record from the bunker, 60 feet beneath the surface of Sanford Stadium. Been there since 2005. Just press -6 on the elevator if you can get that access. And if you can, we'll see you down there. But no, you can find us anywhere on any podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple. We're not on the video channels, but anywhere you find a podcast, we're there. Just the Dawgcast podcast is where you'll find us. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, the Dawgcast. You can find me personally on Twitter. It's at Jamey Goodman, Jamey for the Jamey. Most people hit the IE, but it's Jamey Goodman, and you'll find my content right there. It's not always super exciting, but hey, I'll follow you back.
There you go. Now, I'm not gonna do anything here, but you're about to be on another show here, basically after this one. So I'm not going to spill anything. I know
Right.
we talked about this, but guys, obviously we've had Jake Crane on. If you've been listening and watching, we had him on. Jamey's actually going to be on the J Boy show here in a little bit. So do me a favor, go follow J Boy for one, and tune in to Jamey on the J Boy show as well. From my experience, you can find the J Boy show basically anywhere you can find the Dawgcast. Some of y'all already may know about J Boy, but if not, look, go to Spotify. I think basically anywhere you find, like Jamey said, look up the J Boy show. Jamey's going to be on there. Good news there. That's all
breaking some big news for us in the Dawgcast, at least.
Yep.
An end of an era of independence, and maybe something about some bigger sports podcasting networks that we'll be a part of in the future. Something in that area.
Now, I'm gonna be tuning in. I definitely want to hear the news. I've been obviously waiting past few episodes, man. I've been kind of waiting to see if y'all were gonna throw it out there. So I'll be tuned in. Obviously, I listen to J Boy anyway. Great content, great podcaster. But hey, man, I just want to say thank you again for coming on, having the insight to kind of talk podcaster to podcaster, and then obviously doing some recruiting, man. I love recruiting. Sure. I know you do too. So, like I said, it was a pleasure to have you on, and you're always welcome anytime you want to come back on.
Always my pleasure, my man. I'd love to come back on anytime. Just let me know. We'll suit it up.
Absolutely, man. I'll keep you posted on what we can do that again. I enjoyed it. Well, I had a blast, and obviously we can talk more than recruiting, so we might do that next time.
Perfect. Look forward to it.
Sounds good, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
All right, guys. So that is all for today. Great show with Jamey on there. Like I said, Dawgcast, longest running Georgia podcast. Go follow it. Go like it wherever you can find it. Hey, but also like and subscribe on YouTube, Twitter. Go find me on here for the DGD podcast, right? You can find me anywhere a podcast is found too. If you're on YouTube, hey, like it, ring the bell for notifications because we are live right now. And really just, if you're on Apple Podcasts, hey, 5 stars, I'll take it. But on that note, though, guys, stay tuned. We got a banger tomorrow. Juan Daniels will be on. So we're going to have a good time there. And on that note, though, guys, stay tuned for tomorrow and have a great day. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the DGD podcast.